So how fun that we're in New York City beginning our rehearsals for the premiere at American Repertory Theatre Company. This has had a life before at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, where it won 2 awards, including the Amnesty International Award, and a couple of readings and workshops here and there, but this is a very different production, and it's having a new life. Take me to that moment where you're sitting in the rehearsal room and watching that happen and knowing that this is kind of an awesome responsibility, as one might say.
We had such a phenomenal response to the piece in Edinburgh. We all hoped that something would happen with the work afterwards. When we finally got into the rehearsal room, it felt, right, okay, this is now really happening, because obviously this is a big deal. It's a major theatre company. And okay, I'm not diminishing our achievements in Edinburgh, but this feels like a whole next plateau, a whole another step for the piece,
It's hard to describe, because when you look at this piece of theater that we've been working on for so long, and you look at how important it's going to be to share these stories, it's tremendous. But then as an individual, to be working with A.R.T. is a joy. A lot of queer actors, certainly a lot of trans actors. We work here, we work there, we find our way, and a lot of the stuff we do is unconventional, alternative, downtown. So to be able to work in a major regional theater, it is profoundly moving.
Transcripts is one of the very first times that the American theater is devoting a play completely not only to transgender lives, but in their own words.
Well, the playwright is the gentleman that did all the interviews, over 75 interviews with trans women from across the globe.
Paul's the ultimate ally, really. He's the facilitator of telling these stories. We're not necessarily impersonating these ladies. We are creating a piece of theatre in order to reflect their lives. And I think it's important to remember that it's not just a facsimile of everything that occurred in those conversations. This is theatre. It's a play. I think that distinction needs to be sort of remembered.
Paul has done a beautiful job of finding diverse voices, and
of the characters.
There are 7 different women from different races, different continents, different ages of transition, very different viewpoints of what being trans is, what they hope to accomplish as individuals and within the community. And I think that was Paul's impetus, is to have a wide range. This is what is so important about this play. People are going to say, wow, I had no idea the breadth of the experience.
MJ, you've mostly been known for doing musical theater, and you're sitting in this rehearsal room for the American Repertory Theatre Company, also known for musical theater, but you're working in a very different kind of project. Take me to that moment where it hit you.
It hit me in the very beginning of the process. I've always looked at, like Trojan women and if I can say the vagina monologues. Those were very, very...
You're allowed to say the vagina monologues.
Okay, good, because I didn't know if it was...
Only once.
But yeah, those are right. But those were really important plays to me, but they weren't our narratives. And finally, we have our narratives being told in that light. And like Bianca said, there's a vast variety of beautiful races on stage, as well as different stories that are being told. And I think that it's very important that our stories be heard, and as well as the audience, the masses, seeing that our lives are normal, whether we had to work towards normacy or whether it was just normal from the start. And that's when it really hit me. And I hope that the audiences receive that. I don't hope, I know they'll get it.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
If I was going to give you one phrase, one sentence to tell me what your hope is for this really historic production on a major theater, What would that one phrase or sentence be?
Open-mindedness. I always tell people, you don't have to understand. You don't have to agree. You can like it. But the most important thing I would want for anyone when they're being introduced to a show like this, or any type of show, but specifically a show like this, is to be open-minded to understanding our lives. And like I said, our narratives, because it's very important, because that will create a space for us and to live in a society like how we want to live.
I think there is such potential in this, in the life of this play and in this production, and I would like it to be a springboard so that other people's minds and hearts can be opened.
On Broadway.
Maybe the West End, perhaps. Who knows?
Oh, that would be cute. That would be really cute.
Or both.
Or both.
Exactly.